Tonight on Missing Persons Unit...
Okay, proceed.
As police comb plateaus and ravines...
There's teams of people here, volunteers, police, police rescue.
The search for bushwalker Alan Kennedy steps up.
At this point, we don't know whether there's a self-harm issue.
In Queensland, Sean Sargent was a standout soldier.
He had a top secret security clearance.
But whatever happened to him? Is he missing or working undercover?
They weren't interested in looking for him. It never made sense to me.
In New South Wales, a Turkish immigrant vanishes.
I'm just thinking, he can't go too far. It must be on the corner somewhere.
His worried niece hits the streets with police.
On that way.
Good morning. How are we all?
It's 8 a.m. Another early start at the Missing Persons Unit.
Mandy, you've got a elderly gentleman only speaks Turkish, or actually only yells Turkish. He's got some problem that when he can't talk normally, he just yells.
Senior Constable Mandy Gale gets the case of 65-year-old Turkish immigrant Omar Orcun. He went missing 16 hours ago, and as a dementia sufferer, he wandered off during a family barbecue.
All right, developments in the case of Mr. Kennedy, who was lost up in the Blue Mountains. There's a second and final search occurring today.
An experienced bushwalker, 74-year-old Alan Kennedy, disappeared in the national park 6 weeks ago. The first search of surrounding canyons failed to find any sign of him.
Yeah, Doug and Gary are heading up there as we speak. Obviously, they're looking for remains, but if they can turn up something, it'll be a bit of closure for the family, so fingers crossed for that one. Okay, that's it from me, guys. Have a great day.
At the same time in Queensland, Detective Senior Sergeant Jim Ryan is investigating a new lead into the mysterious disappearance of missing Army Lieutenant Sean Sargent.
If Sean is still alive, the chances of locating him as time goes on, in my opinion, definitely increase.
24-year-old Sean had the Army's highest security clearance. As a signals officer, he was trained in covert surveillance.
Sean was a pretty dedicated soldier. He saw a future in his career as an officer in the Army.
But 8 years ago, after a night's drinking at a party in Brisbane, Sean vanished.
Sean was last seen leaving that address with the intention of going to his car to have a bit of a sleep, and that's the last contact anyone's ever had with him.
Police thought Sean had accidentally driven his Blue Falcon here into the nearby Brisbane River.
They saw him walk towards the vehicle, and as they drove off, that was the last they saw of him.
Sean's car has never been found. But a few days ago, a routine sonar check found a large object on the riverbed, close to where Sean's car was last seen. So Jim's planning a river search to look for Sean's Blue Falcon.
The car may not hold the key, but it may give us that little piece of the jigsaw that we are missing.
Today, Jim's flying 1,000 kilometres north to Mackay to brief Sean's family on the search. He also needs to find out more about his movements in the days just before his disappearance.
Until such time as either Sean is found or there are human remains found and they are identified as Sean's, the file will remain open.
Meanwhile, back at Missing Persons headquarters, Mandy has begun her new case to find dementia sufferer Omar Orkin.
Hello.
Sooner.
Yes.
Sooner, it's Mandy from the Missing Persons Unit. How are you going?
Not too bad.
Not too good, though.
She's talking to his worried niece, who reported him missing.
So about how long Sooner since, from when someone saw him to when you noticed he was missing?
You must have gone disappeared around 6:30, but we realised that around 8:30.
So it's about 2 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, and so with...
Omar has the mental capacity of a young child.
That was the
and
description
speaks
you gave
no
the
English.
police, what he was
And
wearing.
this is the
Yeah.
first time in his 65 years he's been separated from his family.
He hasn't wandered off before.
No,
Okay.
we're always next to him, always someone next to him.
Yeah.
Like, we start looking outside the road, we looked at the parks, we looked in the hospitals, and
We can come with you if you like, and you can sort of, because it might be easy if you show us exactly where he was seen last,
okay.
and
Okay.
so we know the area. So we'll be there shortly.
Okay, thank you
All
very
right, take
much.
it easy.
Thank you.
Bye. Oh, the poor things, my gosh. The problem we face every day is the public aren't as quick, I guess, to offer a hand or ask, are you okay? And I guess there's a language barrier there too. So hopefully somebody will be out there having a look and might ring up and say, look, there's an elderly gentleman wandering around, doesn't look quite well. And that's how, a lot of these people get found.
Meanwhile, back in Mackay,
Jim Ryan, good to finally meet you. How are you going?
Too bad.
Sean's dad, Tom, still can't accept that his son, who loved his life in the army, disappeared off the face of the earth.
Well, he's never missed a day from the army ever in 6 years, so it was pretty unusual for him to suddenly miss them all. Well, everybody said it was really out of character.
And it's because of that that Sean's mum and dad don't believe he's dead. And the deeper they search, the more mysterious it all becomes.
About a month before, he'd told his girlfriend that he had to finish the relationship because he was going to do some damn thing. I don't know not too sure what he was going to do. And then the week before he went missing, he took about everybody he knew out to tea or asked them out.
It was clear Sean was preparing for something.
Yeah, about a week before he went missing, he amalgamated all his accounts into one, and the army credit union. Everything, all his debts and everything were all consolidated into one account. That was about a week before he went missing.
It was obvious Sean was getting his life in order. But why?
Nothing in it, really.
Now, 8 years on, Sean's family still spends every waking moment searching for answers.
We're like a massively loving, very stubborn, tenacious family, and that is why there is nothing on this earth that will ever stop Dad from looking for him.
I even look through crowd photographs if I see them on the internet or in papers and things, you know. I know that it's not going to be there, but I still feel as if I'm doing something if I do look. I haven't abandoned it.
Meanwhile, Mandy Gale is on her way to Sydney's west to search for missing Omar Orcun.
He's elderly, and according to his niece, he's always with somebody. He walks with a hunch, and he has an illness that causes him to yell, which could be offensive to people. So if he's disorientated and wandering around and yelling at people, people probably may not approach him. So
because there's been no sighting,
So what worries
Mandy
me
thinks
is
he
this
may
huge
have slept
area.
in one of the local
parkland along
parks.
here. I don't know how big this river is.
And because
This golf
Omar
course.
can't swim,
There's a few parks
Mandy's
around
very
here.
worried he may have fallen into the river.
He's been out overnight, and we've had no calls from the public or hospitals that I'm aware of. So I'm worried, that no one's picked him up. I would have thought he'd been found by now.
Back in Mackay in North Queensland, Sean Sargent's dad, Tom, is convinced the army is not telling him everything they know.
They said it was a waste of time looking for him because if he didn't want to be found, there's no way you were going to find him because they'd already trained him to do that.
He's, as far as you know, he's never been officially discharged from the army.
They said they gave me a date they would discharge him. When the date came, I asked them to give me a letter saying they had, and they refused. They said they wouldn't do it.
And not long after Sean disappeared, the Sargent family was sent a file marked top secret.
And I told missing persons about it, and they said, send us a copy, and I was going to, and then I phoned up the major who was in charge of his outfit there, and I mentioned it to him, and he said, if you photograph a copy of that, you'll be breaking the law and we can prosecute you and all that. So I said, whoops, he said, and send it back straight away. So I did.
And once they got their top secret papers back, the Sargent family says the army closed ranks.
Was ringing up nearly every day. And for a while they would talk to him, but then they got to the stage where they knew who was calling. They wouldn't even answer the phone.
In the case of dementia sufferer Omar Orkin, Mandy and Gary are meeting his worried niece, Suna. She's been searching the streets for him ever since she reported him missing.
Hi, Suna, is it? How you going? It's Gary or Mandy. I spoke on the phone earlier. Is it okay to come in?
65-year-old Omar, who only arrived in Australia last year, suffers many disabilities.
He walks, has got a problem walking. He walks like bending down. He's got a bit arch and he can't speak. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. People hits the kids and just drives off, you know what I mean? That ain't key anymore. You never know. You never know what kind of people he's going to come across, you know?
I'll get in touch with Flemington. I'll give you my number and, yeah, we'll do a real good look around. All right. We'll do our best. Don't worry too much, OK? No, it's hard not to.
It's going to get dark again. Where is he going to sleep? Where is he going to go, you know?
Hopefully we'll find him for you by then.
I hope so. He needs a help like a kid needs a help, you know?
Back in Queensland, as divers prepare to search the Brisbane River, Jim Ryan is back from Mackay with Sean's parents, who've travelled down for the search. On the night he disappeared, Sean told his mates that he was drunk and was going to sleep it off in his car.
He may have decided to drive home and have taken a wrong turn and gone into the river.
And while searching the river on another investigation, police located a large object on the bottom.
If we do locate what we're looking for, we'll have the divers go to that vehicle underwater. They'll be working in black water. They'll have to rig the car up with chains and all rigging equipment, and a tow truck will be called, or some, possibly a crane even, and it'll be called in to remove the vehicle from the water.
As Tom and Ruth look on, it all hits them. They may now be staring at their son's watery grave.
Yeah, well, I don't really know whether I'm hopeful they will or hopeful they won't. It's sort of, I suppose you'd call it mixed emotions. I'm not too sure what I feel, to be honest with you.
Well, that's it. How far are you going to go down?
As the hunt for dementia sufferer Omar Orkin hots up,
I guess if we don't find him, this is something that's going to have to be searched thoroughly.
Yeah, that's right.
Mandy and Gary are searching the park near his home.
You feel terrible if, you fell and it was the one place you didn't look.
Just as it all looks hopeless...
Where are you, Omar?
Mandy gets the call. Local police have found him.
Suna, we're just coming up to get you. He's okay, but we need to come and get you to come down because he's... Yeah. Are you outside where we just left you? Okay, Dad, we won't be long. Bye. Oh, God love us. We found him. Ah!
How did they find him? How did you guys know?
Well, we were just going to do a look around down the park.
Yeah.
So, and the police have turned up that we were meeting and said that he's been found.
We didn't look this way. I didn't look this way at all. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay.
He'll be okay.
Oh my God.
Up in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney, police are on their way to make one final search for missing bushwalker Alan Kennedy.
We'll have two search teams and we'll try and cover the cliff escarpments and other tourist-type areas where the tracks and that go to. We're just hoping that we can cover that before these storms come in today.
In our last program, Alan's family reported him missing.
Serious concern because he's 74. His age may have failed him the last month and a half. He may be overly confident of his ability to go on an extended bushwalk.
So the missing persons unit immediately searched the caravan park where the 74-year-old lived.
He used to always go around the caves and the dams and that. He camped for a fortnight at a time.
And police rescue descended deep into canyons to look for the experienced bushwalker in creeks and caves. Today, Doug and Gary are back on the mountain, not only with police rescue, but a large group of emergency volunteers to search a new area.
His van that was found here had some overnight gear in it, but it was still in the vehicle, so we can only assume that if he was coming out here to stay, he would have come back to his van. So, because the information that we have about Mr. Kennedy is that he's probably unlikely to have sort of bush bashed or scrub bashed anywhere.
So that's why we're focusing on the tracks out here. We'll do.
This search will be the final sweep of the area where Alan Kennedy went missing 6 weeks before. Back on the Brisbane River,
Drivers ready?
in the search for Army Lieutenant Sean Sargent,
Okay, action's on.
police are about to dive on the spot where sonar images show something big enough to be Sean's car.
What we've done today is we've waited till the slack tide in the river because the tide's moved and there's a lot of current. It will be black water that we're diving in today. The conditions aren't the best anyway for diving.
There's another lot there.
In black water, the only way to search is by feel, centimetre by centimetre.
Yes, and the bloke said he couldn't even, it's like holding a hand over the front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And finally, the divers surface, tired and disappointed. The sonar readings turn out to be a large boulder.
I'm Josh King from the Police Diving Squad. There you go. I can positively say that there's no vehicle in there off this boat ramp anyway.
A bit disappointed, I guess, but I didn't want you to find anything, but now that you haven't, I'm disappointed. Yeah, that's the way it is. Yeah. I'm glad he's not in there. Every little thing that gets done makes me feel like I'm achieving something, so no intention of giving up. There's got to be an answer somewhere. It's a matter of finding it.
Up in the Blue Mountains, outside Sydney,
Do a line search directly back towards the car park.
the temperature hits the mid-30s as searchers fan out from the car park to look for Alan Kennedy.
Basically, we're doing some extended line searching, so which just basically means that the guys are spreading out in a long line, searching for clues, scouring the ground as they go past, and it's quite a slow and methodical type of search.
And in a matter of minutes, they find their first clue.
Good find. A pair of glasses has been located. It certainly looks like it's been there for a little while, so what we're going to do is just mark the location of it. We certainly don't know at this stage whether or not this relates to Mr. Kennedy. Yeah, Forward Command Alpha 1, just advising, we've located a pair of glasses. I'll give you a grid when you're ready to receive.
And as Doug and Matt mark the find,
it's 5902.
Everyone ready?
The search teams head off towards Mount Hay and the surrounding cliffs, fearing the worst, but still hoping for the best. Back in Sydney's west, 65-year-old Omar Orkin has been found sitting on the side of the road. He spent the whole night here, confused and crying, and no one stopped to help him. A night of sheer terror is finally over for Omar.
I think he needs to be checked out. So would you feel comfortable to do that at home if we get someone to come and see him, or would you rather him go up to the hospital?
We'll take him home. I think he might be more comfortable at home. Yeah.
All right.
He had no idea where he was. He'd obviously been out here for a while. He had mud all over his shoes, so he'd obviously walked through the construction site across the street. So he was very confused. And then obviously because we couldn't communicate with him, he just took off, just started running down the road. So we had to follow him. We didn't want him to get hit by a car because he started to run out onto the road.
And now that she's found him, there's no way Suna is letting go. And at this very moment, tears of fear become tears of relief. Back in the Blue Mountains,
Keep moving a bit.
The searchers have split into two teams.
We've been 2 or 3 hours into the search, and we're now leaving the track area, and we're going to go towards Mount Hay, which is just up ahead.
Doug's team will climb Mount Hay to the east, and the rest of the team will go west and search the plateau and cliffs.
That's one thing we're lucky today. It's not 40 degrees, but it's humidity's about 200%, I think.
Gary's team is already working at 2 levels, scouring the top and bottom of the cliffs.
Again, we're looking at caves all along here. There seems to be a whole series of caves under rocks, which possibly could be quite habitable. And as you know, Mr. Kennedy was a cave enthusiast, and we'd be mad not to check every cave along the edge.
It is such dangerous work for police and volunteers. One slip and you're dead. In the case of missing immigrant Omar Orkin, after being lost and afraid for 24 hours, this childlike man is safe and home at last. Omar and his sister Gulu have never been separated all their lives. And this has been the most traumatic event of their sheltered lives. The paramedics examine him to see if he's injured.
Bit of blood, okay?
He's saying I'm scared.
I can't do too much.
There was a whole day. He fell off. His back is hurting, he said.
Can you ask him, can I have a look at his back? Can I pull his shirt up?
Main concern is his fall down that hole. He could have damaged his spine.
I think we've been incontinent as well.
High up in a remote area of the Blue Mountains,
So if we just cover this top section and we'll meet up with them.
after hours of climbing through rugged terrain, there's still no sign of Alan Kennedy.
Just reached the top of Mount Hay. That's been a 4 or 5 hour search, and now we have to go back down the other end of the mountain.
You find a lot in the mountains, people they go out for a day trip with next to no water provisions, and they find themselves exploring a little further than they'd planned, and they fatigue and dehydration set in so quick. Unfortunately, most people we rescue are underprepared, and it's hard to get the message out. For a short walk, really, you should have 2 litres per person, minimum. Not a 250ml drink bottle, it just doesn't do the trick.
But even with all the right preparation, these mountains are still treacherous.
It just brings home how hard searches are up here. You know, you could throw a shiny marble down this cliff face into the valley. Obviously, you would never find it. That's what it's like. But when you're looking for somebody who may have come to grief. And but we won't give up. We can't give up. We must make an effort, and we must go to conclusion with it.
Meanwhile, back in Sydney's west, Uncle Omar is now surrounded by the family who loves him so much. After 24 hours of worry, it's a time to rejoice. But there is still some frustration as well. His disappearance frightened everyone. And now it's just a time to give thanks.
I can't explain my happiness to you. It's very good. He's healthy.
And he's back with us, with the whole family. Thanks to police and everyone.
It's one of the more rewarding cases I guess we've been involved in, and to see the family, and those people surrounded by their families, rewarding for us that we could help. But at the end of the day, they got family and they got as much support as anybody needs. So wonderful, very nice.
Back in Mackay, on the case of missing Army Lieutenant Sean Sargent, after the disappointment of the river search, his dad Tom is still sure the Army knows a lot more about his son's disappearance than it's saying.
The fact that he had this top secret security clearance and they weren't interested in looking for him never made sense to me. Like, I think, God, what is he could be an Al-Qaeda or anything, he wouldn't know.
Not long after 24-year-old Sean disappeared, Tom received a series of strange phone calls from overseas.
My wife called out to me and to get on the phone in the shed, and I went and I could tell there was someone there. So I got her to hang up, still wouldn't talk, and we swapped back hanging up and asked them was Sean and everything, and then they hung up.
You knew someone was there, you could hear them breathing, but they wouldn't say anything, and we would talk to whoever it was, and we got to the stage where I'd say to him, talk to it like it is Sean, say something to him, and he started doing that, and the first one he did that, it hung up straight away. as if it got a fright or something, you know, and we kept doing that when they kept calling after that, but we've had dozens and dozens since it started.
The Missing Persons Unit traced the calls to England, Canada and islands off the west coast of Africa. Tom and Ruth are still getting the calls and still hope they're from Sean.
A strange car will pull up. You go and have a look. Weird. It's up here, it's sort of, you're always hopeful, but you know it's not right, you know. You know there's no one in the car, you know, but you'll have a look anyway, you know.
If you come any overhangs, little ledges, just shout and I'll pass up the joint.
Back in the mountains west of Sydney, just as the search for missing Grandad Alan Kennedy is about to wind up, police find this campsite.
We've just now located something here on the cliff line. It looks like someone set up here for some time with a little seat. They've obviously set up these rocks in this sort of formation and collected all these white stones. So yeah, it's hard to say what would draw you to come here and collect all these stones.
But these mountains were very sentimental to Alan Kennedy.
His wife, who passed away, her ashes were spread at Emma's Lookout,
Right,
which
okay.
I believe, mate, is just up through the canyon. Would you think that he'd come up here for that reason?
In the Blue Mountains, we do a lot of suicides up here purely from the fact that a lot of people tend to return to somewhere where they've got a romantic memory or a fond memory of a certain area, and we encounter that a lot.
A lot of people come to the Blue Mountains, unfortunately, to commit self-harm. We've just got to keep everything in mind at this stage. We don't know what his intentions were when he left his car, but we've got to cover all the bases.
Next time on Missing Persons Unit, as the search continues, the bush reveals a secret.
Someone's been camped here before, as we've just uncovered
clues that are hidden under this stone. Also, a former Olympian goes missing.
You know who your pals are, don't you, Ray? You know the blokes who you love.
In his corner, a giant of the sport pleads for help.
If Ray's watching this, can you please report to the police and let them know that everything's okay?
Also, the disappearance of disabled girl Emily Servos.
She was putting money in the bank for him before jail, in jail and after jail.
Her family is worried sick.
If he's got an anger problem himself, well, she's not safe. If he's got this drug problem and he needs all the money he can get, she's not safe.